Hey everybody, it's Starjump Graham doing an audio check. Let me know if you can hear me okay in chat. Appreciate it. All right, everyone, here we go. I'm going to switch over. Hey everybody, hope you're doing well. Nice to see you all piling into chat here. How's everybody doing today? Good to see everybody. Good to see everybody. I got a 20 over in Twitch coming in, 20 over in YouTube coming in, so appreciate that. Kind of a short notice stream today. Again, sometimes these just work out if my schedule works out for them. You'll notice I call these Starjump Weekly or Starjump Weekly Chat, something like that. It's essentially just a stream for me to do casual chat with you all, talk Star Citizen, catch up on a few things, usually responding to stuff either going on in the Discord or stuff going on in Star Citizen or stuff going on with previous streams of mine. So, for example, if I have something I want to add to that, or if there's some Star Citizen news I thought would be interesting to talk about, and there are a few things this week. This is kind of a busy week for Star Citizen news, so we will get into that. See a lot of people in chat. Hope you're all doing excellent. It's nice to see you all. Just got done watching Star Citizen live, which I thought it was going to be the mission team today, but it was the concept ship team, which was even better in my opinion. But we will get into although I am looking forward to that concept ship team one. Couple top of the line bits of information here. We're going to go over item recovery. We're going to go over the PU monthly report, just a few things, and we're going to go over Quantum Vegas, and then we're also going to talk a little bit about just ship concepts and how they will probably, especially the ones that are currently still concept, how they're going to probably alter a bit for Star Citizen 1.0. We've done multiple streams on this already. I just did the Endeavor Revisited stream, but done multiple streams on this already. The one ship we keep referencing in regards to this is the Pioneer, which you will see fly up. It'll hover up right here in just a minute. But the Consolidated Outland Pioneer is one of the most interesting U-turns for CIG and the ship dev teams in recent memory, at least in my opinion, in terms of just how the concept changed and how they went from one thing to another thing to accommodate gameplay. Ultimately, as you all know, I think it was a great decision, but be that as may, I think all ships that are still concept will go through this kind of evolution. So, yes, Ender, sorry, I just got your DM. Feel free to jump in with me anytime. I will jump in. Stand by. Where will I jump? I can't find any channels. I'm stream chat. So we'll look at that. Obviously, there is a lot going on in Star Citizen, which is pretty cool. But I did want to highlight something. I'm going to switch over to it now. Bear with me. Quantum Vegas 2955, Saturday, July 12th, 2025. It was just announced on Quantum Vegas's website. If you're interested in it, you can go to this website. This is going to be a new Star Citizen event, like a kind of like a beacon or an equinox, maybe not as big as those because this is the first time this one's going on, but it's going to be to celebrate Star Citizen, of course. It's going to be in Las Vegas at Area 15, which is a really, really cool venue. You should check that out. Couple things I wanted to go over with it is some of the guests. Kim Ellis, there's the voice of Ava Huxley for EE Studios. She's been in some awesome machinimas. Will be there. Paul Shelley, the Astropub, acting as a moderator. Sean Tracy from CIG will be there, Senior Director of Tools and Tech Content. I believe he'll be doing a small talk. Yours truly will be there as a moderator and probably doing a panel on concept ships, which is pretty cool. Don't know who else will be there. We'll see. Nate Natronics Ellis, writer, director, producer, EE Studios. They do great content. If you've never checked out EE Studios stuff, really, really cool. And then, Tyler Witkin, Xylo, director of community at Cloud Imperium Games, will be there. Galactica, senior social media manager from CIG, will also be there. And then, of course, Serious Fun, who's part of the Soul Citizens content creator group, who will be acting as a moderator and kind of helping run things in a big way. Again, they have lots more information is coming, some great sponsors again for everybody from looks like Monster Tech. I'm actually catching up on a little bit of this too. Cloud Imperium, Icon City, Elgato, Starjump is a sponsor. So really excited about that. Starjump is sponsoring this event, so that'll be really cool. I don't know if they have the let's go to the program. Yes, here's the program. That morning, doors will open. There's going to be a whole welcome thing that's what is Quantum Vegas. Then we'll go into a tech and tools discussion that will be Sean Tracy from CIG, and then a community meet and greet. You'll be able to meet everyone. Everyone will get to take photos and have a good time together. Then it will move into the future of Star Citizen, a community wish list. This is going to be an interesting panel. Griff went through all this with me. A big shout out to Griff and the entire Soul Citizens group for putting so much effort into this. When do tickets go on sale? Are they already on sale? Tickets. Let me go to tickets. They look like they may already be active. Looks like they may already be on sale. So there you go. There you go. And I know you can get, I'm going to do better rundowns of this, by the way, when I have all my information in check. When did Equinox tickets go on sale? I don't know. Is there another Equinox happening this year? I hope so. If so, we'll try to be there. I will say, though, skipping ahead here on Monday or midday, Equinox, you will see session 2 here, Starjump Shipyard, the Crucible, Kraken, and Endeavor. This is probably going to change a little bit, sort of working out this panel, but I think it's going to be talking about just ship concepting and sort of a lot of like the stuff I like to do on my streams. It'll be a 1:30 to 2:10 session, probably called Starjump Shipyard. So there'll be a session from EE Studios, of course. They're going to do a machinima contest, and there's going to be awards for each kind of era of machinimas. So a Pioneer Award for the 2015 to 2017 group, all the way up to current time. So if you've ever wanted to win a really cool award for machinima, that's going to be a cool event. Again, not totally sure how machinimas get entered, or if it's just Griff and the Soul Citizens are reviewing machinimas that are put out in the world, but really, really cool. Kind of makes me wish we had our Starjump Guardians, or sorry, our Starjump Chronicles stuff done, but we had put a pin in that. And then there's going to be a mission builder thing. This is actually going to be a contest, if I remember. It's like a community activity contest. And then Xylo will be doing a talk with Paul Shelley, kind of all about the role of a community manager, and then obviously the closing stuff. So there you go. Could be really cool. It's happening very fast. I'm still getting, a lot of the information as well. We are having meetings about it, but again, really cool, and hopefully more information about this very, very soon. All right, that being said, I wanted to highlight that a little bit. Next thing I wanted to talk about was item recovery. And Andrew, I did see your DM. Hopefully you saw or heard my response. But, oh, yeah, Ender's in here. Hey, Ender.
Hey, bud.
Do I still have my Enders on the phone thing? That's what I need to look, because I had to rebuild it.
I can upload it to you.
Oh, nope, I got it. Mine. Bing, there it is. I had to update because my computer got updated.
And,
Talking about item recovery here, just wanted to touch on this a little bit because it's currently the big news. Yeah, go ahead.
Before we move on to that, the con you were just talking about.
Yep.
I know at one point we were talking about whether or not I'd be going. Was there an update on that?
I haven't been updated on anything. I actually missed the last meeting and was caught up on stuff via a message. So I have not interacted and asked any of these questions yet, but I will. I'll try to do that this week.
Let me know.
Regardless,
I've got to start planning that.
Regardless, if not, I don't see why we couldn't get you out there. And it's still semi-questionable if I'm going to make it. Again, some of that's still being worked out. Again, all this is moving very fast. And then we also, as Bingo just mentioned, Equinox as well. If Equinox is happening this year, and I really want to find out if it is, but if it's happening this year, I would love for Starjump to be part of it again. To be quite honest with you, we had a great time last time, and it would be cool to be part of it. We had Bingo and Artorias Art come out and help support. We had a great showing. I really truly do think we had one of the most popular booths there. Maybe Bingo and Art will back me up on that, but those two guys stayed really busy behind the booth talking to people, handing stuff out, especially as I was out running around a lot because I was up on stage and stuff a little bit. So they really held down the Starjump booth. So that was cool. Yes, but I'll find out about that, Ender. And here's the thing too: if Equinox is a big thing again this year, I'd love to get you to this one.
I'd love to, I'd need to come back up
because
there.
This is one where we could have the Starjump booth and all the Starjump stuff here. You know?
Oh yeah.
I mean, we'll be like I said, Starjump is a sponsor for Quantum, but I don't totally know how that's netting out yet. I know we're going to submit some artwork for it, but I don't know what it is beyond that. Apparently, the last Quantum meeting was a big important one, and I could not make it.
Of course.
It happens.
Next time, send me in your place, man.
I will. Well, I need to get, there's some NDAs I need to get you to sign for that.
Yeah.
But that being said, thank you all for hanging out with us today. I thought and it's great to have you on here, Ender, because I thought we could just casually talk about a few things going on this week that I thought were kind of interesting. Obviously, this first one is the item recovery system. There's a tier 0, tier 1 and 2 forward-looking kind of implementation, but right away there's a tier 0. And the long and short of it is when you die, you're going to respawn with all your gear minus the stuff in your backpack. And wherever your dead body is, people are going to be able to loot whatever is in your backpack. And I think they can loot your armor and stuff, but it disappears as soon as they respawn or something. Am I right on that? Let's read here. So items, so while equipped, items will also remain on your corpse too. They will not be interactable. Okay, so they get locked, preventing item duplication while still preserving the visual state of your character upon death. This approach helps mitigate item duplication issues in the initial implementation. So actually, you're only going to be able to loot stuff that's in a player's backpack, which by and large, minus some cheap items like maybe magazines and med pens, most people are going to keep primary expensive stuff on their person. So on their back or on their side holsters, whatever, and keep smaller things inside their backpack on fear of not getting them back. This is interesting. There's been a lot of controversy in this. I've checked out a lot of the content creators out there to see what they've been saying. I've checked out a lot of what the backers have been saying on Spectrum and other places to just to take the temperature. And I would say it's universally the same message. Skip tier 0. Allow us to reclaim our subscriber gear from our item bank at any time, and just continue working towards tier 1, tier 2.
Yep.
I don't know how you feel about this. I'm a little split. I'll go ahead and tell you my point of view. I thought I actually don't like the tier 0 thing at all. To me, it seems like it is going to do nothing but encourage some weird workarounds in terms of how missions are approached. I don't think it's beneficial to really anyone. The only good thing about it is it's going to make this content-driven, mostly combat-related content throughout this year easier to deal with as someone engaging in it. not as a
Yeah, that's why they
pirate.
did it.
Yeah, not as a pirate, taking advantage of emergent gameplay. It's really benefiting the people that are going to be engaging in combat related activities. Now, Ollie43, who I'm a big fan of, big uh, content creator or whatever. I always watch his videos, and he had a great take, and I agree with this. And he said, he pretty much agrees with everything I'm saying here. And he had one thing he said too, is he said, this feels like CIG is about to come out with some armor and weapon packs for sale. And he's like, if they do that, this is going to feel real slimy. And I will just say that I hope CIG is not going to do that. My concern is, what have
They're
we
going to
been
do it.
hearing a lot about lately? These Volt
They're
weapons.
gonna,
I'm
it's
already anticipating the Volt pack.
it's going to happen. Here's the thing. I was just the thank you that went out yesterday was because of a conversation I was having about
Thank you in
the
our Discord.
medical
In our
changes.
Discord, yep.
Correct,
Right.
correct. Yeah. Sorry, there was a thank you to Grim. There's often a thank you that goes out to one of us
Yeah.
that is meant for the other of us because we are often mixed up somehow. Our names are always Starjump, and nobody
Yeah.
pays attention to the
Ultimately,
last part
it was
of it.
probably a mistake. We probably should have went with
It
Grim and
was
Ender. Mistakes have
just
been
Grim and
made.
Ender,
We've
no
talked
Starjump. It's
there,
fine.
there probably should even just be one Starjump channel. We've made mistakes. Unfortunately, Twitch does not make it easy to deal with that. So,
At all.
yeah.
That said, ultimately, I was discussing the changes in medical that came literally as the NERSA was, coming out.
Yeah.
And the literal changes that they haven't made to the website.
Yeah.
On one hand, they've got, I brought it up, in I think it was 318. It said tier 3 bed will not revive you. And then 323, it says the tier 3 bed will revive you in a certain range.
Yeah.
And it was literally just right there in black and white. Anyway,
yeah,
it feels like that again here.
It's kind of
the tier 0 is out, and it's not going to be the same in tier 1 and 2.
Yeah.
This tier 0 is out, and it's going to change, and it's not going to be the same. At the end of the day, tier 2, the final tier is going to be something along the lines of you're going to get a blueprint for whatever it is you purchased,
and
you're going to be able to create how many ever of them as long as you've got the time and the materials for it. But for now, let's just allow them to what can we do? Oh, you know what? We're doing some stuff where if they die, it's inconvenient. So let's make it convenient.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, let's do that.
Well, and Philip C. Force on Twitch says, what is this tier stuff? Why is it called tier numbers? So in the past, CIG, if they're going to release a big feature, let's say, medical gameplay, they'll release a tier 0 version of that, which contains, well, let me tell you how it's supposed to be. The tier 0 is supposed to contain a minimal amount of features to sort of make it workable, but it's not the full gameplay loop of medical. Then tier 1 comes along, it adds a little bit more depth. Tier 2 adds more depth. The problem with that is in the past, CIG's gotten away from that, and what they've done is tier 0 a lot of times means a system that is in no way reflective of what it will be. It's just a completely different system. And then tier 2 comes along, which is a complete replacement of that, but that still isn't what the final will be. And then tier 3 or tier 2 or whatever comes out, and that's finally getting where it needs to be. What a lot of the backers want is to stop on the tier 0s and the tier 1s and all that, and just make the full version of the system, and don't put it in the game until that is ready. Would you agree with that, Ender? The issue is kind of that tier 0 doesn't reflect what it will be. And here's why that can be a problem. And me and Ender have had this conversation before in regards to streamers and content creators that make content based off specifics or specific things in terms of how they are now. So take someone who does a lot of like PvP combat, ship to ship combat gameplay. Nothing wrong with that. The problem is they build a following and they bring in new players based off the gameplay as it's represented now, when CIG has gone above and beyond to communicate that it's going to vastly change in the future. So what you do is you get all these players that buy into something thinking it's going to be a certain way, only for when it does change to what the original vision always was and always was communicated by CIG, those players are then pissed because they're like, well, wait a minute, this isn't what I fell in love with. And it's like, well, that's because you didn't go back 8 years into the past and read what the original scope was. And that's not
Yep.
necessarily entirely the player's fault. The CIG
At all.
has old information that a lot of people don't realize. And I still to this day think that's going to be something, and it is currently. I think that's why we see a lot of issues with this item recovery stuff and master modes and all that. This controversies always pop up because there's this intrinsic battle going on between, are we playing the game for what it is now, or are we playing or are we holding out for the game it's supposed to be? And CIG struggles with this because they have to release content for the players playing for now, yet they still have to keep developing the damn game for the players that are waiting for the future. And I don't know if there's a clear answer or solve to any of that either. It's just that is the struggle, and that's what we're seeing here with this item recovery. Now here's what I think they should do though with this item recovery. And correct me if you feel differently here, Andrew. But one of the things they said in this was that at long last, one of the most sought after features that people have been waiting for is item recovery. That's not exactly true though. What people have actually been asking for is item recovery on real money paid for items.
Exactly.
Okay. That is very different than the full item recovery future insurance claim system. All people want to be able to do is they want to be able to wear their red alert armor or their Coromor armor that they bought for $10 during that holiday, and they want to be able to wear that. They lose it, they can claim it and re-get it. That could have been solved with a simple button in the item kiosk. When you go to any item kiosk in your hangar or on a station, and there should have been a button there, just like at the ASOP terminal, where you see all your gear that you've lost, and you can hit a claim button. You pay $500 or AUEC or whatever it is. You wait the 3 minutes, and it gets returned to you. It should have just been that. That should have been tier 0. And anyone who looted that gear off of you, maybe they get to keep that gear for a week or whatever. This whole item duplication thing is a weird one anyways, because we're going to be dealing with this issue anyways. So I am glad they're sort of starting to figure that out, because when insurance claims come in and we lose stuff in the future, we're going to be able to file those insurance claims, and those things are getting replaced. But when insurance replaces them, they're technically getting duplicated. They're just getting duplicated with some lore around it. You know what I mean? So we'll see. I think obviously there's a lot of controversy behind this right now. I'm just really split on it, because on one hand, I'm like, don't do a tier 0. This is silly. This is not how the system's supposed to work. On the other hand, if I'm doing some events with you, if me and you are doing Supply and Cry or whatever the event is for that month, I would love to do it and not lose my gear every time an elevator doesn't open or something. You know what I mean? So I'm like really split on it. Anyways.
Yeah, I'm. For me, the way I described as the end game for it is how I would kind of like it to be. The way they've got it now, I just don't like it. It feels like I said, it feels like the old underhanded stuff that they've done in the past, and I felt like they were getting away from that when they were doing things like not selling, the build as an example. That it hasn't gone on sale. You can't buy that yet. It felt like they're getting away from that underhanded tactic.
Yeah,
but it feels like they've just shifted that underhanded tactic in a way.
Yeah.
And real quick, at least now it does.
Yeah, some of these decisions feel strange. I totally agree. Subgenius over on YouTube says
It's odd.
insurance should be cash back, not item back, thus driving an
I
economy.
agree.
So I agree with you, Subgenius. The only way they can do that though, with the subscriber type items, because you technically have bought it with real money, is they would have to you'd have to get the money back via the insurance claim, like insurance pays out for it, but then you'd still need to be able to go to a store in game, maybe it's the existing stores, and be able to purchase the subscriber item
I
back in game.
see.
That would still
see,
have
I
to
think
happen because that's the entire
I
problem.
think it shouldn't. Right now, I think it should be money back, and it should be in a store. I think when, and again, I'm thinking in the future. This is future thinking for me. But I think when it's all said and done, when we've got everything in the system, I think what we should have is, instead of getting money and you just go buy it, you should have the blueprint. It should give you the materials for it.
That's it. Yeah.
And you should be able to then create it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You should get the materials, and maybe even an upgraded material or something.
Right.
If it's a special material, something
Well,
that's not obtainable, so that it's special. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So 100%. So Philip C. Force on Twitch. Philip C., are you new to Star Citizen? I ask that genuinely because there's something about your comment I really like. I don't know how new you are to the game, but if you are newer to the game, then your comment, I've been on and off since 2016. Okay. So you're not exactly new to the game, but what I would say to that then, though, is your comment is honestly the type of comment I hear a lot from new players coming into the game. And I think that's why your comment is so good. And I'll read it off here. He just says, what if they just made subscriber items non-lootable? Okay.
Yep.
So this goes back to something that CIG also has to reckon with sometimes, is that and especially those of us who play the game constantly or have been involved in it constantly, is that sometimes we get so caught up in the systemic physicality of everything in Star Citizen and how realistic and things are supposed to work. Sometimes I'm just like, can't you just despawn the thing or make it non-lootable and it appears back at your hangar, your home location? Like if you die with a piece of subscriber armor on, it's non-lootable and it just respawns back at your home location. Done. You know what I mean? And it's stuff like that where I'm like, just bring in a classic video game system. Yes, it's
the
not
solution
super realistic.
is so simple.
Yeah.
What if it's just too broken? You know what I mean?
Right. Like it's
break it.
Wear and tear is broken. Yeah.
Break it. It's broken. You can't loot it.
Yeah.
It's such a simple and Philip C. excellent response. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
it's just sometimes I feel like things get overthought with Star Citizen. It's like, okay, you need to reclaim this item, but you died with it on Daymar. So how are we going to circumvent everything for you to not get it, but not duplicate? I'm just like, just despawn it. Just, oh my God. Same thing with the hospital gowns. When you drop the hospital gown on the ground, despawn it. There just should be no boxes on the ground. We do not need the physicality of hospital gown boxes on the floor. If you throw an empty container on the ground, I think it should despawn. And here's the thing.
The code inside of it should have a timer.
Yeah.
It should be a timer, and it should be if it's a simple if then statement, right? If player releases, then start timer.
Yeah. And for those of you that are like, well, what about in the future when I want to decorate my hab and I want there to be empty bottles and stuff around? That's fine too, because you're going to be able to use what CIG has already talked to us about at CitizenCon, a decorator mode. Yep. And when you're in decorator mode, which is going to be
and it turns off that if then statement.
Exactly. It then becomes a decor item. And the one thing that's going to matter with that is CIG has even said it's going to operate under different physics rules and stuff when you're in decorator mode. So,
Grim, I'm still a mod, correct? I'm going to have to time out Shimpasta for just being Shimpasta.
Hey, sometimes you have to do it. Yes, you are definitely a mod. Next on the news, moving along, they came out with this thing I thought was really cool. I'm going to use this a lot for just discussions in the future, because I think it's just sometimes, again, this is what I'm talking about when CIG has all this old information. Sometimes CIG just needs to recompile it all for us and repost it.
Mhm.
Yes, you posted it 5 years ago, but new players need to know. They did this great ship owner guide on components, powers, and signatures, where they totally break down everything, all the different ship components, and it was nice to see new write-ups on things like life support generator and stuff like that we haven't seen in game yet. And then they also go into the sizes for those, they go into the classes for those, and they even go into the grades for those, which again, I loved. They have a whole breakdown here on different signatures, everything, from power throttles to how power is going to work. Like, one of the interesting things in here is they said that in the future, power plants are going to require fuel as well. Again, they really go into a lot of stuff here that I just found really fascinating. So if this is something you've ever been really curious about, I posted the link down in chat. I haven't fully read through everything yet, but I'm going to, just to re-educate myself on all these parts and pieces, what they all mean, what the size and sizes of those are, what the effects of those are on the ship and stuff like that. So for example, back on the type again, I mentioned life support generator, but they also have things such as the shield emitters and the shield generators. You'll notice here, shield emitters planned for a future release. Shield emitters are something we're getting. We know that they're in Squadron 42. You
Mhm.
can independently target them, etc. So not only is there a shield generator component in your ship, but that generator actually powers emitters that are stationed exterior of your ship. There actually are a few ships where you can see the shield emitters as a just an uninteractable bit of geometry, but it is there.
Mhm.
So, anyways, go check this out. I thought this was really cool. Again, I personally hope CIG does more of this type of posting, especially on a year where they're kept, they're not going to be putting out a lot of new features. What better time to circle back to some of these old features and relay out what they're supposed to be, a la medical. You know what I mean? A la Death of a Spaceman. I could go on and on here. How's repair ultimately going to work? And I don't mean just repairing with your multi-tool, which we kind of know how it works now. I'm talking all the way up to capital level repair, which we know goes into materials and quality levels and all that stuff. So again, now's the perfect time for them to deep dive a lot of this stuff. Let's see here. Next thing was the Star Citizen monthly report. Again, I'm not like most channels. I'm not going to go through all this. I just really pick out things I thought was particularly interesting. And I'm going to scroll all the way down to core gameplay. There was a couple things I thought were really cool. They did say here, and this one again, just something that stands out to me. They said that progress was made on base building, with the devs identifying and fixing various bugs, particularly in the client server flow. Validation for buildings placed on land claims began, and localization strings were implemented. They also talk about crafting here, where they say regarding crafting, the core feature is now playable using developer UI. That's amazing, everyone. Just think about that for a minute. Crafting
Mhm.
works internally using just placeholder UI. Um, and they say here that including the use of blueprints, variable material quality, crafting, timers, and resource-dependent item stats. A basic queue of craft multiple item a basic queue to craft multiple items at once was added too. So essentially, what that means is, much like base building before it, CIG now has an internal working version of that. Now, what that does not mean, and I know this for a fact, is it doesn't mean that just because the crafting loop works and blueprints and item quality and all that work, they might only have like 5 blueprints they're currently experimenting with, though. You know what I mean? They still probably have to build out the 1,000 plus blueprints that are going to launch with Star Citizen 1.0. They're nowhere near that yet. What this is stating, though, is that they have a system where the full gameplay loop works, even if it's just with a couple items. Um, they said as much with base building last year. They said they had working base building loop just using placeholder AI. And if you go back like 2 or 3 years ago, they did a very brief, it was quickly mentioned in a sprint report video back when they did those sprint reports. It was very briefly mentioned that they had a working version with placeholder developer UI of placing buildings down in Terraform, like and altering the land where you will place buildings. So going back even several years, whenever you hear this that they have a working internal prototype like that, that's a good sign. We got here a standby. GearCon just gifted 5 tier 1 subs. How awesome is that? Thank you, GearCon. Appreciate it. Salute to you. Do I have my double salute icon? I do. Just gonna go ahead and run that for a minute. Gotta get a little taste of that. One day Ender will get me his double salute pictures so I can get that.
What do you need from me? Yes.
I need 2 pictures, one of your hand up, one of your hand away on the left, and one on the right.
And then
so
right.
4 pictures
Got
total. And try to get your whole arm in there up to about a little past the wrist, so I can do a nice cut.
Got it. Consider it done.
Yeah. But thank you, GearCon. GearCon's been an excellent, amazing supporter for our St. Jude initiative that will start in April. More info on that very soon, and we'll highlight what some of the people have done to really support us in that initiative. And again, more info on that coming very soon. So GearCon used 40 bits on the on-screen celebration. Appreciate that. But yes, so I wanted to go back to this PU or this core gameplay thing too. Again, I loved seeing this, Ender. I don't know how you felt because me and you've had some conversations about this. I love just knowing that in the background there still is a little bit of feature gameplay or feature development happening. Okay.
It's nice.
Yeah.
I don't expect a lot out of it, but it's nice that they are still working on it.
Yeah, I agree.
It doesn't. I don't get my hopes up, and I want to be sure that everybody else is kind of tempering their expectations on it because I don't want everyone else to get their hopes too high.
Yeah.
But I want everyone to be, sure not to get their hopes up and expect that them working on this is them getting things complete, but they are working on it, and that's nice. I like seeing that they are working on it.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's just a little bit reassuring, especially on a year where I think it's going to be a tough year for those of us that were excited for those big new features. So, Philip C., thank you for that follow. Appreciate it. Sending the javelin overhead. Oh, hey, Execute. I've been waiting on you. You've been waiting on me. Stand by. Oh, actually, yeah, I see you messaged me, Execute. I did not get a notification for that. I wonder if I accidentally clicked on it and didn't realize it and it removed the notification? That's interesting. Sorry about that. Apologies. Yeah, no, I see you messaged me this morning, actually. Sorry, I did not see that. Apologies. Hope you're well. Just doing a quick stream here to talk about a few things. Because excuse says because we accept friends, we ain't friends. Gotcha. Yeah, we're not friends. Anyways, let's talk a little bit about the next thing I wanted to talk about, which was Star Citizen Live today. They went with the concept ship team members, which is really cool to hear them. They showed off a few internals of the Pioneer, which is currently getting worked on. Those of you know I'm a big Consolidated Outland Pioneer fan. And it's neat seeing these initial interior designs. Again, I think one thing you can remember are these are very early. These are very rudimentary concept mock-ups. Okay, you don't have to worry. This is not exactly how it's going to look. These are, like he said in the on the show today, this is for them to figure out how rooms are going to be, where doors are going to be, how you're going to flow from one room to another. I thought they were really interesting to see. I know some people were getting hung up on the yellow color. Apparently Jared mentioned that. I first off, I also wish Jared would stop responding to the haters in chat. Start responding to the people that are actually excited. But but I actually thought the yellow was cool. I thought it just looked very different. It makes it feel very industrial and just just different. Not a lot of ships use yellow in Star Citizen, so I was excited to see it, and I hope CIG sticks with it.
Yeah.
So I just you ever notice that though, where it feels like sometimes on their show
It's
they will respond to every negative chat, but not
every
respond
negative
to positive
comment, and I'm going,
chats.
why? I'll tell you, there was one comment, and I saw it, and I went, oh god, they're going to respond to it, and I'm going to get mad,
I
and
know.
they didn't, and I was real proud of them. But somebody said, why not stop working on 387 concept ships and finish the BMM? And I was like, they're going to respond to this. I know they are.
Yeah,
I know they're going to, and nobody did. I was very proud of them for not responding to it,
yeah,
but I expected them to.
yeah.
So
Well, like this image here. Now, I'm not saying the floor should be yellow, but I kind of like these wall struts and stuff using that color. I think it could be
I
really
you
cool,
know, and
different.
I not everything needs to be yellow, but some of these struts in yellow,
Yeah,
the piping in
I
yellow,
think that could be really
definitely
cool.
keep some of this yellow for sure.
Again, I don't know how it is in other countries, but here in America, a lot of construction equipment is yellow or
It needs
orange,
to be.
and so we connect it with that. By the way, excuse yes, I did see the Krueger stuff. We're going to talk about that for sure.
Mhm.
But yeah, Pioneer looking really cool. Obviously, they're making progress on that. It looks like they've still got obviously a way to go with this
Sure,
ship. This, I've been saying on my streams for quite a while now that this is not a ship that's going to be done in a year. It's not a ship that's going to be done in 2 years. I personally think this is a end of year 2026 ship at the
sure,
soonest, like an IAE
sure.
2026 at the soonest.
Yes, yes, I
Um,
agree with that. I agree with that.
yeah,
I think 2025. If I were to predict, I would say
hmm
2025, we're looking at Invictus, Perseus,
yeah,
IAE, Apollo.
yeah.
I think those are going to be the big ones. I know somebody mentioned the what's the Drake? The Drake
Ironclad.
Ironclad.
Yeah.
I don't know. I neither heads or tails on that one. I don't know. People that know more than me can talk on that one. But for me, I'm predicting Invictus, Perseus, IE, Apollo,
Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
and I'm pretty
And
comfortable saying that.
yeah, I feel good about that. I do feel good about that. Yeah. And obviously CIG could flip the script on us on a few ways, but we'll
Oh,
see. I mean, I really am excited for what I'm seeing here with the Pioneer. Obviously, it's got a long way to go. I think while the ship conceptors are doing this work then gets handed off to the people doing white box stuff. The white box people will get stuff worked out, and then that will be handed over to probably the same team, or maybe it's a different team. The people that will then
oh
take
yeah.
that geometry further into gray box and then further into final art. Um,
Execute. I just wanted to stop real quick and
mhm.
say, I hope you're doing well, dude. It's really nice to see you back in control of something.
He's
Get back in
having fun.
control of your Discord so that I can unban you from our Discord.
We went on lockdown. We went on
I
hardcore
had to.
lockdown. I know
I,
you
I,
understand.
I, I know you understand, but I want to get you back in the Discord eventually. All right,
Yes,
we'll get you
yes,
back in there.
yes. Yeah, and I have an alternate for him too. I can fill you in on that.
Excellent.
But um,
Oh, I know.
the
Believe me, I know,
support.
brother.
Oh yeah, 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 yeah.
I know they do. That's
I'll tell you,
we'll get it figured out one way or the other.
I wish I had a contact at Discord. I actually put some feelers out, but I am coming up dry on contacts at Discord, unfortunately. Um,
I'll reach out through St. Jude. I know they have some contacts through Discord.
mm, yeah, you never know.
I'll reach out through St. Jude and see if they have any that might be able to help out
Yeah,
too.
yeah. Um, but again, I really dig these. I am excited for it. Obviously, the Pioneer is a big ship, not only for me personally, and that I'm big into base building and stuff, but I just think it's a really interesting ship or design direction that they're taking it, which is really cool. I did want to bring up here. Bear with me, folks. I'm pulling it up now. Juggling about. I'm juggling a few things here. Bear with me. Bear with me. I wanted to talk about this. Oops, nope, and I screwed that up. I'll talk about this, which are these RSI starter salvage ship concepts. What'd you think of these, Ender?
I was a stupid amount of excited about these. The middle one is the one I loved. If you took the middle one and the
I like
one
the
on the
middle one too.
left and mixed them, but the middle one's the one I loved. The middle one, the only thing I didn't like is that the cockpit is too mantisy.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
But it's very mini Arastra.
Yeah,
And that's what I liked about it.
that's true. Actually,
Um,
it's definitely got a mini Arastra vibe. And you know it would be really cool that I don't think we're seeing here on that middle one,
yeah,
especially. Is I feel like in the middle there where those kind of empty areas are, I think that's where you could
uh-huh,
have some sort of storage system for the RMC,
right.
and they could build those boxes to look unique compared to like
Hmm.
the what's that new one called, not the misfortune or whatever.
Yeah,
um
the fortune.
but this
Um,
brings up an interesting talking point. They're going down an RSI starter salvage ship. They said this
uh-huh.
is smaller than the Vulture. I would think slightly smaller than the Fortune as well, maybe,
Yeah.
or around the same size. So earlier in our chat today, we were talking a lot about the Endeavor and how I had speculated that it may one day be able to build the supply bay in addition, because the Pioneer is the only ship that can currently do it,
Sure.
and I think CIG is against walling things behind a single ship. Maybe not for
Sure.
1.0, but in the future.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
what this shows, though, is CIG wants overlap on stuff. They don't want it to
Okay.
be, for example, and I'll go ahead and say this. I know Execute said this before in relation to
Mhm.
mine layers. The
1 second.
Reclaimer,
You keep talking.
yeah, the Reclaimer may not be the final size 4 salvage ship. There may be another size 4 salvage ship in the future, right? The Orion may not be the only size 5 salvage ship. There may be one day be another size 5 salvage ship. I mean, I think they want to be a little. I think you'll see more overlap at the smaller ship scales, to be fair, but I don't think CIG is against having overlap where it makes sense for them. If a gameplay loop is, first off, let's say Star System 1.0 is out, and let's say, just totally shit and giggles here, let's say that salvage is just the thing everyone likes to do. It's the gameplay loop that everyone does. Yes, they do others, but salvage is the one that you make a lot of money. It's a low impact, low friction. Everyone likes it. I promise you, you will see a lot of salvage ships pop up because given players choice, but further monetization of the gameplay loop. I also think if salvage is really popular, you're going to see further refinement and fidelity on the salvaging gameplay loop. So you're going to see even more types of salvage heads come up. Salvage heads maybe that can salvage armored vehicles or armored ships better than a standard salvager, right? So they can cut through that armor better or something. Who knows what you could see, right? So maybe in the future, ships like the Idris or the Perseus, ships that are heavily armored, there's going to be a salvage head that can salvage those more efficiently, right? I don't know. I'm speculating, but regardless, I think CIG is totally fine with having overlap. This is why I think that you could see in the future an Endeavor module that runs cargo, or an Endeavor module that builds the supply bay to then build the space station. I'm not saying it will. Don't go buy an Endeavor based off that information because I am speculating, but I think it's likely, right? Which is kind of what we're talking about today. Reconcepting for 1.0, sort of the title
Right.
of today's chat, in that ships are going to change for the gameplay. And I'll give you a good example of that since we're talking about the Pioneer a little bit here. If you would have went back a year ago and said the Pioneer is going to have an onboard refinery and ground extractors for minerals in its landing gear, people would have went, nope, doesn't have that in the concept. CIG change of concept. And that is what's going to happen with all concept ships. Their role will stay the same, but you may see major features of how they accomplish that role change. So, for example, I thought for a long time we weren't going to hear much more about drones because CIG just wasn't
Right.
talking about it. There were no new drone-based ships coming out. Well, with the whole base building initiative, that seems to have changed again. Now we're sort of getting back into drone world. We got the
Yeah.
Pioneer does drones. We got the Starlancer build that does drones. We have the CSV FM that does drones, right? So I think ships when we're thinking about reconcepting for future gameplay, I think ships like the Genesis Starliner, the Crucible, the Orion, the Liberator, even the Kraken, a ship that's kind of more of a modern ship in terms of when it was designed. I just spoke with Gavin Rothery a week and a half ago and reconfirmed this. Those of you that follow my Twitter, I asked Gavin, was the Kraken developed with modern metrics? Because a lot of people say the Kraken's going to grow because it wasn't built to metric. He confirmed there that the Kraken is built to modern metrics, right? So, but where I'm going with this is all concept ships can and will change, sometimes in minor ways and sometimes in major ways, right? Sometimes in major ways. So anyways, and we'll talk more about that here in a minute, but I think these are cool. Obviously he said this is still with the concept team, which means the actual ship production team has not got their hands on this yet. It hasn't been approved yet. Really interesting that we're seeing stuff this early. Usually ships are kind of been signed off by CR before we ever see some of that initial concept stuff. So I don't know if that stood out to you, but I thought that was rather interesting that we're seeing a concept ship here, and with the one with the Krueger, which we'll look at in a second, we're seeing some concept ships that before they're approved.
Can I tell you why I think we're seeing them?
Yeah.
I think maybe we're seeing them because we're seeing, you've mentioned this before, they've mentioned it before too, but you mentioned it a long time ago. How a lot of new team members will be kind of introduced to a team by working on smaller projects.
Yeah, like onboarded. Yeah.
Yeah, I think this is what we're seeing. We're seeing the onboarding work. And this is the work that they're doing, concepting the items. And well, we're kind of seeing that concepting being done.
Yeah, and
to show what these guys could do.
Yeah, and concept artists sometimes are different than full-on ship team artists, but the concept artists too, while they may not know how to like fully build and some of the complexities of a flight-ready ship, I could definitely see ship team members starting on the ship concept team because there's a little bit more it's more like base level 3D knowledge that you need, and things don't, for example, geometry doesn't need to fully connect. There can be holes here. There can be parts where things don't line up. And then that is kind of an up-ramping to a further ship artist, especially if it's like more of a junior ship artist who's still learning the craft of 3D. You know what I mean? So that totally makes sense. Let's talk a little bit about the next ship that they highlighted, and that was this Krueger light fighter. I didn't have a big opinion on this one, and you may have more of an opinion on this one, Ender, so I'd love to hear your thoughts. But there's some early concepts for the Krueger light fighter. Excuse the roughness of the imagery. This is just straight from the stream. Again, I think it's really fascinating. They're showing us stuff this early. What'd you think of this? Krueger, another ship by Krueger.
I fell in love with F immediately.
Okay.
It was. I saw it and I was like, God, yeah, that one looks good.
Yeah.
I don't know what it was about it, but I liked it literally immediately. Now, I did like one thing that Jared said, and I think it was about C. It was either C or about.
I know he talked about A quite a bit. which was one of my
He did talk
favorites.
about A, but I think C was the one he was mentioning this about. It was the dropped piece, and it was Enemy Mine. He mentioned Enemy Mine. Because that was the first movie I ever
thruster right here.
Yes, the drop thruster.
Yeah.
He mentioned that, and Enemy Mine was one of the first movies I ever saw space combat in.
Yeah.
I was super young when I saw that movie, and I loved that movie.
Yeah,
quite a bit.
I agree. Very cool. I know,
and it got me into that kind of movie. So
yeah, I know Decent on YouTube and said Naboo fighter vibes for sure.
For sure.
Funny story about the Naboo fighter. The main concept artist who worked on that at Industrial Light Magic, I would call him a friend. We're an acquaintance. We're acquainted with each other. So funny little tidbit there. He worked on the Star Wars episode 1, 2, and 3. Back in the day. I think he's still at ILM, actually, if I remember correctly. I think he's still there. One of the old school. But I really liked A.
Good work. You did. And I got to tell you, I like A. One of the things I liked most about A is the engines.
Yeah, the A. Here's the thing. The A looked to me, well, first off, all these ships look like Sid Meier ships from like the old school concept posters and stuff. Really, really cool. I dig them. The one thing I liked about A as well is I like how, I'll zoom. Well, can I zoom into it? Well, right there you can see that the gun is built into the fuselage in a way that sort of references the current Krueger P-72, P-52, whatever, Merlin. So I love that little connection. I didn't love it as much when it felt like the gun was just sort of bolted on, but one thing you can see in almost all the concepts is they're still kind of integrating the guns into the fuselage. That is very different than how CIG does most of their ships. For better or worse, most of the guns are just tacked on to under the wings or on a turret, and the reason they do that is because they want you to be able to switch them out easily. I do really kind of love the integrated guns, though, from a looks perspective. I want the flexibility of switching it out because I know that's important, but I do love how it's like integrated into the whole.
I do agree with that. I like the integration. I've always liked the Krueger design language.
I have too. That's true.
I don't necessarily like Krueger ships per se.
I don't know if I've ever flown one. I don't know if I've ever flown a P-52 or P-72.
I have. I had one when they were part of the giveaway.
Okay.
Or part of the not giveaway, but part of the what is it? Bonus.
Oh, was it like a referral bonus thing or something?
Referral bonus. That's it. They were a referral bonus at one point, and I was able to get one. And I very much liked it, but it wasn't worth it to keep for me because, it didn't have any kind of
usage in the fleet or something.
Benefits. Yeah, there just wasn't any benefit in the fleet. So I said, all right, well, it's a nice thing to fly, but I've got no way to carry it. I don't fly commies, so.
You know what C kind of reminds me of, actually, too? With the cockpit in the back and that thruster in the back, but then up front, it's got the two engines on the side. And I know it's not like this, everyone. Don't freak out. But to me, it's got a slight vibe of a pod racer in Star Wars, where you've got it narrow in the back and then the two engines out up front. I know that fuselage is there in the middle, and that's not how the pod racers were. But it does make me think a little pod racer kind of vibe, and I think that's pretty cool, actually.
And you know which one is it? E. Can you do the above view?
Yeah, E. Yeah.
Again,
E to me was really interesting.
I think it's E. E was the one that was like it looks like it's got 4 distinct nacelles, right? Like the pieces to it.
Yeah, you could say that. It's got the bigger wings on it.
Oh no! E reminded me of either Star Fox.
Yeah, very Star Fox, actually. Very Star Fox.
Do you remember there was a racing game X.
F-Zero?
Says ends F-Zero. Thank you.
Yeah.
It reminds me of that.
Yeah, I get that. I get that. I totally get that. Captain Fishstick
One
says E is
one
a
of
hint of Thunderbirds. I would agree with that too. Um,
yes.
yeah, that's here's to be honest with you, even G looks pretty cool. To be honest with you, I like G as well. It looks very fast.
There's something for all of them. You know what I mean? I
Yeah,
can't sit here and say any of them look absolutely shitty.
yeah. Here's
They don't.
here's the if I have to level a criticism, if we're going to level any criticisms at all, I would say that the only
I'd
thing
level them at 2.
is that
Go ahead.
Krueger, or at least what I thought of Krueger, but maybe I'm totally wrong in the Krueger lore because I don't know shit about Krueger really. But I just thought that their whole point was that they sort of built a ship around a gun. So the ship was almost like superfluous. It was more about getting the gun in the air, very much how the A-10 is, where it's meant to. It's a ship built around a gun. I
See,
I
I don't.
I
I don't
would
know either.
yeah, I would love if that is in fact the Krueger vibe, which maybe it's totally not. I'm totally speculating wildly here. I would love to see one of these versions be a little bit more gun focused, but just like with a ship attached to a gun, if that makes sense from a design standpoint. But that's a minor quibble. I mean, I really like where all these are at in different ways.
If I were to level a criticism, I'd level it 2 of them
Mm-hmm.
specifically, and it would be B,
Mm-hmm.
because the engines in the back make no sense to me.
B, yeah, yeah. You almost could just totally
And
remove them and just have winglets there.
right, and D, because those engines they're 3, right, but they're tiny, and then you've got this giant,
Front end. It's off
weird looking
balance.
front end,
Yeah, D is
and
off
it's like,
balance to me.
what are you doing?
Yeah. D
So
D doesn't feel weighted properly.
at all.
Yeah.
E is a little weird, but at least that weight is at the back end. You've got the larger
Yeah.
engines. It makes a little more sense.
Yeah. Bingo says I wouldn't want any of those over an Arrow though. Nothing wrong with that. Arrow's a sexy ship. I will tell you that right now.
I can't sit here arguing with you. You know, I've got an Arrow.
Yeah.
I love the Arrow.
There is nothing wrong with the Arrow's look. I would actually say the
Yeah.
Arrow is one of the sexiest looking ships in Star Citizen for sure.
Gotta agree. Gotta agree.
Yeah, I would love. I'll tell you
It
what.
was my first ship.
Yeah, I would love a heavy fighter, but more modeled off the Arrow design, like a essentially. I know that they've got the F-8C. I would love an F-8C size ship more modeled off the Arrow's lines. You know what I mean? Where it's almost like the wedge shaped kind of thing. Oh, I would love to see Anvil do something like that. That'd be really cool. I'm getting off topic. But yeah, Krueger. I
you're gonna go way off topic if you keep it up.
Yeah, I think this was a bit surprising though to people to see some Krueger concepts in development. I know this is something that's been long sought after, and if you go back, now remember these are concept ships. This does not have anything to do with the silhouette video that CIG showed showing the ships that are in active production over the next 12 months.
Right.
But I think it was pretty exciting because this gives us a little bit of forethought into what the CIG's thinking for the future. For example, interesting to still see them playing with RSI ships, even though they've kind of told us recently that after the Perseus and the Apollo, they might take a little bit of a break from RSI and move to Misk and Drake for a bit, just so they don't burn Artis out. And so still cool to see them working on that. And yeah, go ahead.
Thanks, correct me if I'm wrong, but wasn't the statement
the Satan? Ender just said Satan, everyone.
I did. Wasn't the statement made they're going to work on larger Drake ships and stop working on large RSI ships? Or am I completely wrong about that?
What I heard, and I can't remember who I heard it from, it may have been ship team member, but it was that they don't want to burn people out on one manufacturer like RSI, so they do want to switch it up a little bit. and they want to start focusing on some of the larger MISC and Drake ships. That's what I heard. That doesn't mean they're going to stop on RSI. I think it means more the larger ships, because I think the larger ships require such a footprint for artists that, they want to be careful having 15 artists on a large RSI ship after RSI ship after RSI ship. You know what I mean? Yeah, and Cindy
Captain
says
Fish
it's time to
has me
add.
laughing.
Yeah, Cindy says it's time to add Satan to the lore. So, are we saying there needs to be a Star Citizen ship named the Satan?
Hell statement.
Let's see here. What else? What else about these ships? Any other thoughts about some of these?
I'm excited to see which one they end up with.
Yeah. And we still have obviously a lot of ships still to come down the pipe this year. Again, we've gone through the silhouette video time and time again. We know that we have some unidentified ships and vehicles in that silhouette list. Everything from some interesting ground vehicles to some what I think is a Drake heavy fighter to some really weird flat consolidated outland look at it. There's a lot of question marks out there. And again, remember, those are only some of the ships coming down the pipe. So I think it's going to be a good year for ships, especially because with all the content driven focus this year. Paul, appreciate that follow. Thank you so much. With all the content driven stuff this year, I think CIG is going to have to rely on ships more than anything this year, more than ever before.
Absolutely.
And paints and all that other crap. So I personally, and the reason is even though the game is hopefully going to get more and more playable, I don't think CIG is going to be able to just rope in a ton of players by saying, hey, look, we got these FPS missions. People like that, but there's so many damn good FPS games out there that you can play on a daily basis, even though some of them aren't my
good and bad.
Good and bad. I mean,
good and bad.
They range the gamut from other sci-fi related games to Call of Duties and everything else. There's so many options for you there. I just don't know how big of a pull that is for them. You know what I mean? But going back to these two ships real quick, I wanted to talk about the Kraken and the Endeavor real quick. And I'm only using these two, and I know I talk about these ships a lot, everyone, but it's primarily because they're still in concept, but they're interesting case studies to me. And I would probably put the Crucible and Genesis Starliner in that category as well. They're interesting case studies to me for reconcepting and the concept development of a ship and how CIG has had to change concepts over time. Here's a question I want to pose to you, Ender. Mm-hmm. Now, I bought the Kraken, my first big ship. I bought it for really one primary reason. And it was primarily because it was the most flexible capital ship platform, meaning it could be used in a bunch of different ways. Me and you are big RPers. I have to assume that will mean we will get into our own emergent gameplay stuff. That is not a pure loop. And to me, the Kraken was the ship that by a huge margin was the most flexible, okay, for what you're getting for your money. Now, however, though, when you go back and look at a lot of information on the Kraken, when you go back and read its Q&A and everything, there's a lot of stuff that at one time was very appealing about this ship that now is not appealing at all. And CIG has to look at new ways for these ships to be useful or to still make sense in the game they're making today. So, for example, let me pose a big one to you. Carriers in general, okay? And this kind of touches base on the Endeavor a little bit, but I think it affects the Idris. I think it obviously affects the Kraken. I think it affects even ships like the Javelin to some degree, the Liberator, ships like that. With launching with 5 systems, okay, and I could be wrong, chat, feel free to correct me. I know we'll have someone correct me if I'm wrong on this, but out of our 5 systems we're getting, Stanton, Pyro, Nyx, Castra, Terra, I'm pretty sure Nyx is the largest system. Like in terms of space. Not in terms of what's in it. As a matter of fact, I think it has the least amount of stuff in it, but it's the largest distances, right?
Correct.
But still, I'm a little curious on how useful carriers themselves are going to be in a system, in a world where we have 5 systems, and if Pyro's anything to go by, while you may not be able to cross a system in one go in a fighter, they make plenty of rest stops to where you can stop, refuel, go, stop, refuel, go. Do you see there being much of a future for carriers in terms of just basic ship transport? Like, do you think that's really a selling feature for these ships anymore?
Well, let me pose a question to your question.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think it's possible that they go back and remove those from places like Pyra?
Well,
Those refueling areas.
yeah, it's a good question. It's a good question. Um, I don't know. I mean, I'm assuming CIG is hoping that while Pyro has a ton of refueling, rearm, resupply places, I think they're hoping it's so risky to fly there in a future Star System world where we maybe have 1,000 or 1,500 players per server. I think they're hoping it's so dangerous that you don't want to do that. I don't know,
Right.
because Pyro right now is dangerous, yes, but you can kind of fly safe system to or station to station relatively safely in Pyro.
You can pretty much get it done.
Yeah.
And I'm seeing a lot of chatter in chat
Oh,
where
good point,
people are
Kavo.
saying things like carrier can equal mobile base. I see carriers being useful if we ever get Vandal systems. Maybe
Yeah.
if they reduced fighter
Yeah.
fuel tanks.
Good point.
Yes, look, if all of that's valid, but that's if
And Kavotha said future rep may make some of those refuel stations in Pyro unaccessible. That's true.
that
That's true. That's key.
is so the two that stood out to me were captive fish sticks.
Mm-hmm.
It's not a maybe if fighters are going to have their fuel tanks reduced. So
Mm-hmm.
there's no if, it's going to happen. But it's not just fighters that need their fuel tanks reduced in order for a carrier to be useful.
Yeah.
Your vulture, your everyday driver, your daily drivers need to have them reduced for a carrier to be useful. Everybody, fish sticks, I can assume that you are a PvP player because you mentioned fighters.
While you're talking, I'm just
So
going to
you
throw
only
this up
five
on
flyer.
screen, by the way.
Yeah, no
Posted
problem.
something to the
So
screen.
it's safe to assume that you only fly a fighter, and that's perfectly fine. But thinking, so true.
Shout out to Xcute for sending me this. So that was
I
perfect.
love it.
It's good.
So it's safe to assume that you only fly a fighter.
Yep. Oh wow, sorry. XQ says, just let me add on to this real quick. Castra's 22 AU, Nyx is 11. I think Pyro's like 8 or so. So that could mean Castra's almost 3 times bigger than Pyro. I didn't know that actually. That's a new one for me. So that's good to know. So okay, go ahead. And anyways, Ender, go ahead.
Interesting.
Yep.
But you would need to. Well, then, yeah, you got to take it all into account for sure.
Yeah, yeah. And there's a lot there. There's a lot there.
You more than just a few items need to have their stuff slowed, lowered. You need everything lowered.
Here's something I think. I'm curious what you think of this, Ender. I've said on many past streams that I think that capital ships especially, and I would say large ships as well, but size 4, size 5 ships, so everything from like 140 meters up. I think if those ships are detected in an area, which by and large they are, because they are going to be scanned by arrays and other players and stuff like that, and they're going to stick out like a sore thumb because they're going to have massive signatures. But I think when capital ships like that are in an area, dynamic missions that are created should be affected by that. Let me pose a scenario for you. let's say you have your appreciate that execute. I guess I was wrong on my math there. Thank you for the clarification. But like if you're in your F8C and you're crossing Pyro in the future, I would suspect, as CIG has said, that dynamic missions may pop up or dynamic pirates, NPC pirates that try to attack you, whatever, right? Because you're flying across Pyro and you're flying through an area where you have hostile rep and you're flying through in your F8C. Makes sense, right? That
Right.
maybe it would spawn some pirates that try to attack you and you got to dogfight them and kill them real quick. Okay. However, I think if your F8C is sitting on the deck of a Kraken flying through Pyro, I would hope that this dynamic mission system would sometimes maybe spawn fighters to attack the Kraken, but also would sometimes not, knowing that they're vastly outmatched. You know what I mean? Like
Right.
it makes no sense for the game to spawn 3 Cuddy Blacks to attack a Kraken because they're not going to do shit to it.
Right.
They're just not. They're not going to break through the capital shields in the future. So I would hope that maybe there's some security guarantees when moving your ships that way. I don't know if that's how they're going to play it, but I do sometimes wonder about that. But, you know, other things with the Kraken, for example, and again, you could extrapolate this to other ships as well. Things like the Dragonfly Bay. How useful is that? I know there may be some other Kraken owners in chat. Personally, that whole room could be scrapped. It means nothing to me as a Kraken owner. I don't care about the Dragonfly Bay. I do own a Dragonfly, but it doesn't. I never use
It
it.
doesn't. It doesn't seem. As a non-Kraken, non-Dragonfly. Oh well,
yeah,
technical Dragonfly owner, but every one of my Dragonflies has been upgraded to something else.
yeah.
Even I'm going, what's the point?
Yeah.
Like, what is it? What? Why?
Well,
What can it do for the Kraken?
yeah. And everyone, please be aware, I'm talking future capital ship shields and strength and all that, not our current,
Yes.
which is not balanced or safe at all. In the future, though,
Yeah.
CIG has said that capital ships will be nigh unkillable by smaller ships like that. It just won't be possible. You won't be able to get through the shields. I think in the future, if you're in some small ships, it will be almost impossible to take down an Idris, for example.
Oh yeah,
but
and it should be.
Yeah.
The Idris should be terrifying to see fly into an area. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Here's what I think they should do with the Dragonfly room, because again, it doesn't really make a lot of sense for the current Star Citizen game, right? In a couple ways, right? One is, what are you going to fly your Dragonflies out of there in space? Like, why not just have your decks on the ships do whatever that job is? If you're if you're on the surface of a planet, the Dragonfly Bay being up at the top of the ship makes no sense, because then you got to come out and then fall to the ground. It makes no sense.
Right.
What I think the Dragonfly Bay should actually be, I think it actually should be moved to the lower part of the ship, and give it a small area where they can come out the bottom of the ship. Be much better for a lot of reasons.
Absolutely.
And I think the Dragonfly Bay room, honestly, I'd be fine if they converted that entire thing to maybe a big medical suite or some other functionality. Or hell, a modular room. Maybe you can choose to put the armory in there, or choose to put a medical wing.
Yeah.
Whatever
Absolutely.
it is, much better.
John
Crew has stated before that the Kraken still has a lot of interior space they're not using. He has said that. And so he's said that the Kraken has plenty of room to fit a medical wing in there and stuff as is. They don't even need the Dragonfly Bay for that. But I do hope the Dragonfly Bay will get rethought up a little bit. It's not something I've asked Gavin, but I'd be curious if the Dragonfly Bay was originally part of the concept brief. Like if that was in the brief that he received, hey, must contain Dragonfly Bay. Because remember, the Dragonflies, when they may have wanted to sell some Dragonflies. So the idea was, when this ship went on concept sale, people see that it's got a Dragonfly Bay, they're going to buy some Dragonflies. Well, now CIG may want them to buy cutters, right? So maybe that should be a cutter hangar back there. You know what I mean? I don't know. There's a lot of ways you could go about that.
Right.
But let's switch over to the Endeavor. We talked a little bit about this on my Endeavor Revisited stream the other day. You know, and we talked a lot about this in our Discord this morning. There was a really great discussion in the Discord, and specifically in regards to some of these modules for the Endeavor, which, let me be very clear, they have to they have to make these modules because they sold these modules already. But what I think you will see is that some of these modules get tweaked a bit in what they are. I'll give you a good example. I'm going to go down to, is it on here? Yeah, here we go. The multi-purpose pods. Okay. One of those is a fuel pod, aka standard cargo pod 2x1. So again, I don't know if that means it's a cargo pod or a fuel pod, I guess, or maybe it can be both. But it is a minor one, but I could see them tweaking that to maybe add fuel scoops to it, or tie into some of those extra gameplays, or maybe they'll make the fuel pod to where you can actually be more of a connecting module where you can connect fuel pods to it, right?
Right.
Maybe they'll do something like that. They have a general research and a general science pod, refiguring out those. They have a service equipment and crew pod. The funny thing is that pod and the fuel pod could really be combined into the hangar module for me. Or maybe the hangar module gets those things as part of it as well, because like someone said in our chat this morning, you're going to want extra fuel to be able to refuel ships that land in your hangar module, right? Things like the medical bay. Again, it's like, do we foresee a world with our current medical system? And see, we don't even know what that currently is yet, because we don't even have actor status tier 2 yet. But when that all comes out, does a hospital ship still make sense? Maybe it does. Maybe it doesn't. Or maybe the hospital ship is the only way we're going to be able to do full-on surgeries and cybernetics. I don't know. I'm speculating here. But I guarantee you there's going to be a lot of changes to these modules. I guarantee you. Yeah, go ahead, Ender.
Well, you know my thoughts on this. Yeah. I still think that it's currently the way it is.
Yeah.
And the chances of it going back to the way it was are better than average.
Yeah.
I think that they made it what it was, or what it is now, for a specific reason, and that it will go back to the original idea. And I even sent you the link. If you look at the link right now, I can point you to where it says the exact same thing on two different.
First link or second one?
Both. Open them both, actually. Okay. If you open both of those links, the first link is for 315.
Yeah, 315. We got a Path Strider just subscribed for 28 months in a row. Path Strider, thank you so much. Giving you the double salute. I'm going to fire those off here for just a second. Path Strider, thank you very much. I appreciate you. Thank you for all that support again. Both myself and Ender, we really appreciate everyone sticking with the Starjump crew.
So if you scroll down until it says ambulances, until you see medical facilities and ambulances on both screens.
Okay, medical facilities, ambulances. Yeah.
Yep.
Ambulances
and do it on both screens.
Okay.
Do it on both screens, because I want you to scroll back and forth between them.
Yeah.
And read because it's very particular. I'm going to read, and you just follow along if you can.
All right. Yeah. Here's 315s.
All right. Go ahead and go to the 323s real quick.
Okay.
And scroll down to it.
Yep, on there.
All right. So go to 315 and read that first sentence. You'll see ambulances or tier 3 medical facilities can be found in medical ships such as Cutlass Red. Now go over the 323. And you'll see it says exactly the same thing.
Yep.
Ambulances or tier 3 medical facilities can be found in medical ships such as Cutlass Reds.
Yep.
Let's go back to 315.
Yep.
They can be used to stabilize patients and treat minor injuries. Let's go ahead and pause.
Okay.
And go back over the 323. They can be used to stabilize patients and treat minor injuries. Now let's pause and go back over to 315. However, they cannot be used to revive someone from death.
Yep.
Let's go back over to the 323.
Yep.
And can bring a person back from death. Respawning to one of these facilities aboard a vehicle requires you to be within a very short distance, 20 kilometers. What came out around this time, Graham? Do you remember?
Was it C8R? Ursa? Or the
The
Nursa?
Nursa.
The Nursa, yeah. Yeah, it's
Go
they kind of switch things to
figure.
this whole distance thing. And that kind of makes me think about things like the Endeavor with the Hope module, with all these hospital beds. Like, what situation are you going to be in where so many people are dying that you need an entire hospital wing because
And
you need to
and here's
respawn people within a certain distance?
yeah,
It
and
doesn't make sense anymore.
here's an even more blaring
Yeah.
issue for me. The Hope module has multiple levels of bed.
Yeah.
Who's going to be dying 20, 50, and what, 100 kilometers?
Yeah.
Who's going to be dying in different distances?
Yeah. I mean,
It
and even just to
just
support
make
and even
no
just to
sense.
support server populations. Here, for example,
Right.
here's how I could see the concept around the Endeavor hospital thing changing, right? So, for example, and this may not change the ship itself, but may change the purpose and how it would work. For example, I would love if in the future, if you had an Endeavor Hope class arrangement and you're on your Endeavor, and let's say you're out at the far reaches of Castra, you're way out, 22 AU system, and you're out there flying around in
Oh,
your
I know.
fighter, and you get blown up and die, and you have the option of spawning, and it will try to spawn you back at your home base location. I think it would be really cool. And again, there'd need to be gameplay code to support this. But I would
Mhm.
love if you're operating an Endeavor in a system that you could put out a beacon or your ship itself becomes a beacon, however you want to do it, where when someone does die, they have the option. And I know this goes against CIG's imprint thing, but I would love the option to either, if I'm out in Castra and I die, and oops, normally I'd have to respawn all the way back at Orison, back in Stanton. I would love for
Mhm.
it to say, hey, here's options for respawning. You can respawn back at your home base for free, all that, whatever. Or there is an Endeavor Hope class ship in your system in Castra. Here are its current
That
rates
has your imprint, and
that you
here's your rates.
that you can transfer your imprint to, and you can respawn there where you're in system. It will cost you X number of dollars, right? Again,
Yeah.
it doesn't really make things easier because now you're on a ship where you've got no smaller ships, so you still need to be picked up. You know,
Yeah.
you're going to have to like arrange for a taxi or something, but maybe the Endeavor captain has friends in his orgs or operating C8s out of the hangar bay that are ferrying people around. But
Right.
they're going to have to figure out ways for these ships to make sense in the broader verse. I think back in the day when the Endeavor Hope class was thought up, I think they truly did think about, much like our good friend Starlet sometimes says, they were thinking about a world where tens of thousands of people were all in the same world. I think, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
again, I just don't see that future for Star Citizen. I think it's always going to be limited to some degree on how many people are actually on your shard, on your server, and or on your DGS. And I think
I
being able to utilize these ships differently would be key. So, for example,
yeah.
this hospital module, you know, you mentioned there's sort of like multiple floors there. Honestly, I
Yeah.
see it just need to be one floor, and the bottom floor could be a small pad, or the top floor could be a rooftop pad that C8s can land on, C8Rs. And then you
Well,
take
and
the
that
patient
that
down.
that brings up the other question of what's the point of the Apollo, the C8, the even the Nursa?
Yeah.
Why have them if they're just respawn points at this point?
Yeah. Yeah.
Because they were ambulances.
Right.
I could see them being, pads for sure.
Yeah.
Phillipsy actually brings up, is it Phillipsy? It's Phillipsy.
Phelps, yeah.
Brings up a good point. So random people will spawn on a ship. I think you would have to set your ship to the point of being able to allow it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So you would expect it. Security could be higher, and also you would probably know it's happening, and you're getting paid for it. So
Yeah. Yeah. So what all this is to say, everyone, is much like the conversation that was happening on our Discord today. Concept ships are definitely going to change to the current gameplay direction of Star Citizen. And even though that may be sometimes a little concerning because you pledge for a ship based off certain things, Just remember that ultimately that's good because you don't want to have a $1,000 ship you've paid for only for it not to work properly with the gameplay. So expect ships like the Endeavor to change drastically. A lot of people say, I've heard people say this before, that my shipyard series maybe encourage them to buy a ship. That's great. I also think it's great when I hear that, hey, I watched your thing and actually it encouraged me to not buy your ship, the Crucible, or
Hmm.
not buy the Kraken. That's great too, because you should know what you're walking into and not, be blowing your money on something you didn't realize or didn't understand about a ship. So my only advice to you when it comes to bigger ships like this, even smaller ships actually, that are concept, is buy it for the role. Do not buy it for the stats, for the size guns it has, for the size components it has. All that can, and I promise you, will change. Okay, it will. It promise you it will change. Focus on focus specifically on its broader role. Okay, its broader role being that the Endeavor's a modular ship that's going to focus on heavy science. Okay, that's a broad stroke thing. The Legionnaire is a boarding ship. Okay, the Kraken is a flexible support carrier. Okay, so focus on those broad roles, and you really shouldn't have any trouble. I know people get upset, for example, when the gun situation on the Corsair changed. I didn't love it either, but I'm not getting too attached to any gun sizes, what's pilot controlled, what's not pilot controlled, components, because all that I know is going to change. When it comes to ships like the Corsair, for example, I buy it because it's a good general purpose ship that I think I can fly a lot and I like the look of it. It's about as simple as that. And I know, I agree with you all. We should be able to focus in on those specifics. The problem is we're just not there yet. When Star Citizen 1.0 comes out, I expect the stats on a ship concept to be pretty damn close to what we're getting. Right now, they don't even barely, and they're still figuring out the game they're making. So, how are these concept ships, concepted 8 years ago, going to be accurate still? So be careful with your purchases. Focus on the broader role. And with that, we're going to wrap it up. But before I do, Ender, pimp your own channels for a minute here, bud.
I'll call you back. Oh, sorry.
Eh,
Had a
I just
call.
did a wonderful handoff to you,
You
and
did. I
you janked
apologize.
me.
I'm getting work is just an
I know.
idiot from work calling me.
Ender, I was
Anyway,
just telling
my
everyone,
channels.
please pimp your
I know. I heard.
channels real
I
quick
was
here.
listening intently,
It's all
oddly,
good.
even though I was. You can see me on twitch.tv/StarjumpEnder. And
Go give him a
pretty
follow.
soon, do we have a link for the new Starjump? We don't have a link for that yet. There's keep an eye open on
Not yet.
Starjump.
Not yet, but let's talk
Um,
about that tonight. Let's get that wrapped up tonight because we
yeah,
have some stuff to talk about on that.
keep an eye open on Starjump. There's something new coming down very soon
Yeah,
for Starjump.
be pretty cool. You're gonna like it.
Um, so keep an eye open on that, and then pretty soon St. Jude stuff is coming. So
Yep.
yeah,
Yep.
we got a lot happening. We got a lot
Absolutely.
happening. Love the face.
Everyone,
Love the
I
face.
appreciate you all hanging out with me today for this Starjump Weekly Chat. Really appreciate you. I'm going to send you over to someone that I hope you will stick around with for a minute. Give Starjump love. He supports a lot of Star Citizen communities actually, and does a lot for the community in general. And we have some very exciting news coming in relation with him very, very soon. Very soon, actually, in time for St. Jude. I've been working hard on the background. Some exciting stuff coming for St. Jude. I'm going to send you over to Angry PC Tech. Please give him a little Starjump love and help support what he is doing. I really appreciate you all hanging out with me today. You're all amazing. Thank you for the follows, giving you the big quadruple salute. Really appreciate you. We are going to do a Starjump Station this weekend. Everyone, have a good day. As Ender always says, do something kind for a stranger and have a wonderful Thursday. Bye, everyone.